back to the channel, and in this video we're going to be taking a quick look at the new Pro Acryl One Step Set 1 paints. Pro Acryl's answer to contrast. So, quick look at the box. These were, before we have a quick look at the box, these were only available, I believe it was the Dactycon, but they did do a short period release on Monument Hobbies EU during the same period of time if you wanted to get hold of them. So a friend of mine actually told me that they were on that website, so I grabbed the box. I like Pro Acryl paints. The value for money is great. Bigger bottles, really good coverage. I really enjoy using them. Not the best painter in the world, but you know, I really enjoy using them. These were, I believe it was £50 for a set of 12, so that works out about £4.16 a bottle. They're 24ml bottles. To put that in perspective, GW contrast paints are 18ml 18ml bottles, and about, I think, £4.75 on GW's website. This is the Monument price as well, so I'm assuming at some point when they come to other stores they will be slightly cheaper. So in the box you get 12 paints. You get a blue, a royal purple, a crimson, a dark blue black, a warm yellow, a dark green, shadow flesh, graphite green, graphite grey, dark green brown, warm brown, and orange. And that's on the back of the box there. Normal, simple Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl paint set box, and inside the paints come, if you watch, I'm going to take this out and they're all going to fall out now. They all come on the usual plastic holder with your 12 paints there. So I'm going to grab the camera down. We're going to take a quick look at the paints that I've just slopped onto some models with a brush, and then I'll show you them thinned down on some models through the airbrush, and on a piece of paper I've got them non-thinned through an airbrush as well. Not the best airbrush user, like I say, I just do this, it's just a hobby. I'm not a fantastic painter, but like I say, by any stretch of the imagination, but just to be as thorough and give my views on these paints as I can. So let's bring you in a bit closer, and we'll take a look at the paints side by side to their models, and then some painted models and some models of the airbrush. So let's bring it in. Okay, so here we have some Marines out in front of us here for what the paints look like when they're just put onto a model. All the Marines in the front of each line are just some 3D printed files that I found a couple of years ago. I just find they're really good because, you know, contrast paints on shoulder panels and stuff like that, flat armor pieces, and rather than just wasting a load of actual Marines, these were, you know, pens to kind of print off. So on the front here, on both of these kind of like statuesque Marines are just primed with Colourforge white bone, and the actual Marines behind were originally black, and so I've just gone over them with Ghoul Grey from Colourforge as a kind of like rough zenithal, and then applied the paint on them through an airbrush at a ratio of 2 drops of paint to 1 drop of thinner. After my testing, I realised that they would have worked just as well without thinner. They go through the airbrush just fine without thinner. So like here, as you can see, this is just on a piece of paper of them just going through the airbrush unthinned. My airbrush control isn't great, but as you can see there, you know, they go through perfectly fine, unthinned. Some of them are okay, thinned, as you'll see, and some of them through the airbrush with at least with a 2:1 are very, very thin paint. Like the colour disperses quite a lot through them. But anyway, let's have a look. So first we have dark green. I like this colour. I like this colour a lot. I thought in the pot it's quite dark, so I thought it would be good for Dark Angels. But realistically, I think it's more of a salamander. If you know GW paints and stuff, GW minis, I think it's more like a salamander green. But this is what it looks like here through the just painted on over primer. It has settled in the recesses nicely, and no real tide marks at all. It's a little bit here, but I think that was more me than the paint. That's definitely my mistake there, rather than the paint not wicking up the extra. But it has pulled away from the top surfaces and left good contrast in the recesses, as you can see on the shoulder panels there. And then with the airbrush, again, this is on 2:1. If it'll focus, there we go. It's a nice thin paint on the recesses. You don't get much of the contrast type of deal, you know, with it settling in the recesses and stuff like that. But these go through the airbrush really nicely. Like I said, both thinned and unthinned. This was thinned 2:1. There is, like I said, it's on like a zenithal. So next up we have the warm brown. This is a really nice leather colour. I've been using this for some leathers on my Tomb King Blood Bowl team since I had it. So here we go. Here we have them. Oh, professional as always. Again, just painted on over the primer. Settled nicely in those recesses. No real blodges or build up on the flat armor panels. And again with the airbrush version, nice and smooth again. And the yellow, this is a great yellow. This is warm yellow. If you're painting over a light primer, if you use light primers anyway, even if you don't want the contrast effect, this is a fantastic yellow. It's so richly pigmented. It's really, really good. I really like this. Even if you're not using it as intended as a one-step color, as a speed paint, it's so nice. It's so vibrant. It's so bright. It really is a nice color. This is one application over the white bone, settled nicely in the recesses. Just a really, really nice color. It's a really nice yellow. Through the airbrush, it's very thin. This has been coated exactly like everything else. It doesn't go over the black very well, but it's very thin, a thin 2:1. As you can see on the chart here, the piece of paper that I've done, it's through the airbrush. It's without it being thinned. It's such a nice color. Oh, his arm's falling off. Only blue tacked on. And next up is graphite grey. It's a really nice light grey. I think probably one of the better for settling in the recesses, this one. I've got a marine that I'll show you in a minute, which is, which is 2 coats of this and gives you a really good black, a really solid black. But again, you know, on there nicely. No pooling, no coffee staining or anything. Settles nicely in the recesses. Just a really nice light grey. Again, another one through the airbrush that's really thin, so I wouldn't thin this down to go through the airbrush at all. But when it went on, it was it looked very watery, but as it's dried, it's given a nice, quite a nice finish there. On to just the blue now. Again, the blue is settled nicely in the recesses. It did exactly what you want. It's a nice punchy blue, nice and bright. Good for your ultramarines. Again, a little bit of a pooling there. Again, that's my fault there. It's settled nicely in those recesses of the shoulder panels there, giving really good definition and contrast. And again, through the airbrush, this one was slightly thin. There was no issues of them going through the airbrushes at all, either thinned or unthinned, no clogging whatsoever. This has got really good coverage. This one worked really well with the zenithal, even thinned. Next up is crimson. I thought it would be nice for like a blood angels, but it's quite saturated. It's quite dull. It's not as kind of deep red as what you expect with like a blood angel, but 2 coats would probably be great for a nice dark red for a blood angel. Again, settled really nicely in the recesses on the shoulders there, on the shoulder pads, under the knees, oopsie, and around the back into all the little crevices and stuff. Really nice colour, and through the airbrush as well. And just really did work on the old zenithal in this one. A little bit patchy there, a little tiny bit watery. I think maybe like a 3:1 or a 4:1 if you were to thin it down. It really doesn't need that much thinning whatsoever. Onto orange here. This is quite a watery paint through the airbrush. Very thin through the airbrush with the thinner on a 2:1. But again, it's really punchy colour. Not as much contrast in settling into the recesses as some of the other paints. But again, it's a really nice vibrant orange. Again, didn't react very well to a 2:1 thinning on the airbrush. It came out quite thin, though it has dried better than when it went on. Next up we have the dark blue black. This is quite a nice dark blue black, surprisingly. It's very dark colour. I'm not too sure what I would use this for, but again, it was very nice to use. So what I found with all of these paints is they feel like Pro Acryl paints. You get some brands and they're very either really fluid, or they vary too much between one pot to the next. If you've used any Pro Acryl paints before, these act almost the same on. These were all used off of a wet palette as well. They weren't any extra thinning down through the wet palette or anything. They sat really nicely on it. They didn't split. They were just really nice to work off the wet palette. So if these were your first Pro Acryl paints, if you bought others, they would work. Obviously they got a different application. Use them for different things, but they feel just like Pro Acryl paints. They don't feel any different. And the airbrushed variant there. We have Shadow Flesh next. This is the flesh colour in the range. Again, it was very thin through the airbrush when thinned down, but it's a nice fleshy flesh colour. It's a little bit darker on camera than it is in person, but it's settled nicely in the recesses. Went on nicely, very smooth application. Very nice flesh coat for a base coat as well. If you wanted to go over and highlight it afterwards, you know, it's a nice paint, very smooth application. But again, through the airbrush, thinned 2 to 1. It was very thin, very watery. But again, once dried, it's not a terrible finish. We'll have a look at the durability of the paint after we've shown these off and give it a good rub. None of these models have been varnished, none of them at all, not even the finished Marines I've got off to the side. And we'll just give it a good rub. This is Royal Purple, very nice colour. I really do like this purple. It's a very nice purple. I like all of the colours in this paint. I mean, in this first set, I'm not sure what I'd use some of them for, but they are all very nice colours. This purple, again, really nice. Settles really nicely in the recesses, gives good definition. On the one of the finished Marines that I was painting up, I did make a mistake, so I went back in with a bit of Wraithbone and touched up the mistake, and then put a very thin layer of the yellow back over the top, and you can't tell the difference from where it was. So they do cover really nicely to keep mistakes up. We have the dark green brown here. This is one of those that I'm not entirely sure what I would use for, but it's quite nice. It's a very military colour. If you're painting like some military fatigues or something, it would work quite nicely, I think. Again, good settling in the recesses. I find with darker colours it's quite difficult to actually see the contrast between, you know, the recesses and the higher areas. And through the airbrush was just as good as well. Not too watery, this one, on the 2 to 1. Stand that back up. And finally here we have the graphite green. This is a very light green, as you can see there. Good contrast, pulled away from the surfaces, the high surfaces, settled nicely in at the recesses. A very nice green. Again, another one in the range, but I'm not entirely sure what I would use for. Something aquatic maybe, I think. And then through the airbrush is again, it was a very thin paint through the airbrush when it was thinned down. But again, once dried, once the paint's had time to dry, it's actually quite nice. So let's just finish up here with showing off some fully painted Space Marines. I painted a couple of chapters up here. We'll start off with the Dark Angel, which was painted with the dark green. All colours on here are the Pro Acryl colours. I've not used any other paints for these. So this is what I thought would be more of a Dark Angel, but as you can see, the colour is quite light. So I think it is more salamander-y. There is no bone colour in this, excuse me, in this set. So it was bright ivory I used for the Aquila, and then I thinned down this paint with water, the warm brown, really thinned it down, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 parts water to 1 part warm brown to make a wash, and then applied it to give the recess shading and that. The casing of the gun here, sorry, the metalwork of the gun is the graphite grey, just 1 coat, and all of the tubing, the undersuit, is 2 coats. No, sorry, this is 1 coat of graphite grey. Next up we have the what I thought would be the Blood Angel. It's a very light Blood Angel. It does work. If you had a load of these on the battlefield, I think it would be pretty good. I think it would look alright. Just again, a very basic paint job. One coat of graphite grey over the Aquila. You've got the brown for the belt, for the leather belt there. I just realised I didn't paint the vents. I mean, if I had an army of any of these, I think they would look great. Here is the blueberry, the ultramarine. So here on the, if it focuses here, you can see on the chainsword, that is 2 coats of the graphite grey. So you do get a nice rich black if you 2 coat it, and then you can see like the leather on the that was the warm brown I used there. And the Imperial Fist, this was 1 coat of yellow. It's so nice. I'm a Blood Angels player, but if I was to paint up Imperial Fists like this, I would be quite happy with them. An army like this on the table, I think, would look pretty good. Now, each one of these Marines, using a new paint that I've not used before, took about 15 minutes a Marine. So even with the touch-ups, I got some red onto the shoulder pauldron, but you can't see at all where I've touched it up. It's blended in really nicely. And finally, the Black Templar. Now this is this graphite grey. You know, this is one with, you know, it's gone on with the brush as well. So this is this colour, but it's 2 coats. So you can really tell the difference, but it's really smooth. It's really nice. It's gone on really well. Pay no attention to the pauldrons. I put my paint on too thick. But it's gone on super nice, super smooth. You know, I've not had any reactivation issues with them whatsoever. I've gone over them with some water after they've dried. I've put, you know, multiple coats on, again on this one especially. You know, I've had no issues with reactivation whatsoever. So let's just grab a Marine. We'll go for this one. We'll do a couple of them. Again, not varnished. None of these models are varnished at all. And we'll just give it a really solid rub. Really hard rub. Up and down over the edges. And have we taken anything off of that? A tiny little bit has come off on my thumb. So a really hard rub with fairly chilly hands. Let's try this ultramarine. You can see how it is before. I used this hand this time, so it's got no paint on it. You can see no paint. Clean thumb. And we'll just again give it a really good hard rub up and down, way more than you'd ever handle a model around. Try and get it over all those edges, those ridges. No, just a tiny little bit off the bottom there where it's been really hard. If it'll focus again. There you can see just on that bottom end there. That's really vigorous rubbing. If you didn't varnish, if you're one of those people that didn't varnish your models, I don't think there would be any issues with the paint coming off any more so than any other paint. You know, giving it a really good kind of rubbing. So thank you everybody for watching. It's a bit of a longer video than I thought it would be, but that is I really like these paints. I'm a fan of contrast paints and speed paints anyway. I'm an army painter. I like to put fully painted armies on the table, and you get them painted as quickly as I can. So I do use a lot of speed paints. I do use a lot of contrast paints. And I've got a lot of them. I've got a good portion of GW paints. I've got a good selection of Army Painter I've got the full collection of Express Colour and the full collection of AK Quick Gen. I really like these. I'm not being paid to say this at all. These are all my own thoughts. I will be picking up set 2 when that comes out. The only thing I didn't manage to get was the medium that comes with these. They have their own special medium which you can put with the normal Pro Acryl paints, and it turns them into these paints. When that becomes available, I will do another video on that to as kind of like an update video, a part 2 to this. So grab a couple of Pro Acryl paints, mix them up how they say, and see how they do, see how they work on some marines. But thank you for watching, everybody. I know uploads are sparse for everybody that subscribes and tunes in and everything like that. I'm much appreciated, and hopefully I'll catch you soon. So take care, everyone. Ta-ra.